Welcome to the Northeastern Region RAC meeting, and it is August the 5th or 7th. Yes, yeah, time 7, 6 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everybody out to it. I'll start out with welcome to Northeastern Region Advisory Council meeting. This meeting will be held in person at the Northeastern Region office here in Vernal, Utah, as well as being streamed live on YouTube. This is a public forum, allows you to express your opinions, ideas on wildlife management in our state. This RAC considers your feedback on the proposals before us today and reports them to the Wildlife Board. The Wildlife Board, not the RAC, is charged with setting wildlife policy for our state. Wildlife management is a complex and sometimes emotionally charged. We all have ideas and opinions about what is best for Utah's wildlife. It's why we're here today, and that's a good thing. We encourage those who want to express their opinion at today's meeting, fill out the comment card. We expect those in attendance to respect the people who speak, especially those who hold views that do not align with their own. Respectful behavior helps facilitate efficient meetings where RAC members can listen, digest, and address the concerns, ideas, and proposals being presented for consideration. Disrespectful behavior includes booing, yelling, cheering, or laughing while someone is speaking. You can also maintain a respectful space by referring people by name instead of by descriptors of their physical characteristics, demeanor, or gender. If this behavior occurs, the RAC chair will remind attendees be respectful. If behavior continues, the applicable individual or individuals will be asked to leave. Lastly, please help reduce distractions during the meeting by putting your phone on silent. And if you need to take a call, we ask that you step outside. And also, these microphones are really sensitive, and so they do pick up side conversations and kind of can distract from the meeting as well too. So I just want to welcome out and we'll do some introductions here for the RAC, Northeastern RAC, but I also want to make note that Gary Nelson is online and Bob Christensen is also here in attendance from the Wildlife Board. We'd like to welcome them out. We'll just go ahead and start down here with Richard, do our RAC introductions.
Richard Bueller, representing the public.
Jake Huber representing the sportsman.
Nathan Crapo representing the public.
And I didn't introduce myself. I'm Grizzling, currently the RAC chair. Hopefully changes here in about 10 minutes. I am a sportsman.
Eric Major representing the public.
Dwayne Davies, agricultural.
Jordan McMahon, Bureau of Land Management.
Adam Nielsen, I guess I represent the public. Is that correct?
Watchable wildlife.
Mark China with Watchable Wildlife.
Okay, we will go ahead and turn it over to, well, I guess we need to do approval of the agenda and the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to read the agenda in the previous minutes?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Okay, we got Jordan, couldn't remember her name. I'm trying to make sure I remember it. Jordan made a motion.
I'll second.
Dwayne seconded it. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it passed unanimously. We will move on to the Wildlife Board update meetings for updates for that. Oh, I forgot to check. Dan, did you approve as well too?
Yeah, hey, Grizz. Yep, this is Dan Abeda from the Ashley National Forest, and I did sort of raise my hand. Yeah,
And I apologize for not giving you a chance to introduce yourself as well too. For
yeah, no, that's
well.
fine, Grizz. Yeah, I'm just filling in for Natasha Hatton.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will go ahead and move on to the board meeting updates. There were 2 board meetings that we've had since the last RAC. First one was on June 12th. The first motion was on the, let's see here. The first one was the dedicated hunter rule amendments. That one, there was a move to approve the dedicated hunter amendments for banking hours, and that was passed unanimously. The next one was to approve the conservation permit program rule amendments, and that one passed unanimously. The next amendment was moved to approve the outfitter's guide spotters as presented with revised language provided by the division. That one passed 3-2, 3 in favor and 2 recusals on that one. The next one was the CWMU land variance request. And that one, there was a motion to approve it as presented by the division with the caveat that as landowners apply for this program going forward, that they understand there is another option available to them. And that one passed unanimously. The next one was the changes to the rule, the R657-28 WMA exemptions for license requirements. And it was presented, or a motion to accept as presented by the division with the inclusion of an exemption for federal employees accessing WMAs while conducting their official work duties. And that one passed unanimously. And the next one was on the sage grouse translocation. There was a motion to accept the sage grouse translocation as presented, and that one passed 4 in favor with 1 recusal, or 1 excuse me. Brett Selman stepped out on that one. And then the next one was the approve the possession and release of pen-reared game bird amendment R657-4 as presented by the division, and that one also passed 4 in favor with 1 excused. Last one on that one was the move they approved the Antelope Island memorandum understanding as presented by the division, and that one passed unanimously. The second wildlife board meeting happened on August 1st, and it was an emergency one for the Monroe Canyon wildfire. And there were 3 different options for that one. They also swore in some new board members as well in that, but for the Monroe Mountain Hunts, they had 3 different options for that. And those ones all passed unanimously. So I will turn it over to Miles on the regional update. Colin, we have a new RAC member down there, Colin. Can you introduce yourself? We've all kind of done our introductions.
Yes,
Introduce yourself.
yes, I'm Colin Crozier. I'm from I live on Mighton Bench, grew up there in Ioka. Grew up running cows and hunting and fishing and all the like. Anyways.
Perfect. We appreciate you volunteering.
All right, for the regional update, just wanted to highlight some of the changes with the RAC. Richie Anderson was our agricultural rep. He served 2 4-year terms, and that his last term expired at the end of June. So he spent a lot of time here on the RAC and always participated very well. Rebecca Jones was our non-conceptive representative. She also served on the RAC for 8 years. And then Brad Horrocks was on as an elected official, but his term as an elected official expired back in the first year. So anyhow, so we've replaced those 3 RAC members with new ones. Colin Crozier just introduced himself. He's a new agriculture representative replacing Richie. Adam Nielsen, he's taken Rebecca Jones' spot as watchable wildlife. For those of you who might need to be brought up to speed, during the last legislative session, they changed the title for those seats from non-consumptive to watchable wildlife as a result of the legislation that required RAC members to actually have a hunting or fishing license. And so they made that change. Then lastly, Willis Lefevre is our elected official, replacing Brad Works. And Willis asked to be excused tonight. He's apparently in Washington, D.C. on some business. So so I just want to welcome the new RAC members. Appreciate your willingness to serve. And then I just want to give a shout out again to the outgoing RAC members for their service. It's a big commitment to spend 8 years. And certainly appreciate them for doing that. So moving on, next slide. Just want to highlight what's going on in some of our sections. The aquatics just finished the Fall Creek road loan treatment. I think they just actually finished that up yesterday. That was up in the Rock Creek drainage. That's Colorado River Cutthroat Restoration Project is going on. It's kind of winding down on the last few streams that they're working on in Uintas for Colorado Cutthroat Restoration. So they'll have to follow up with another treatment on that next year, then they'll be ready for fish. Been lots of effort surveying boreal toads this year in the high Uintas and other areas. We don't have many boreal toads on Uintas. There's a small population on the north side, but we do have boreal toads over in the west fork of the Duchesne. We've just had a hard time finding any additional ones, but the good news is we're able to map a lot of good habitat that we're finding that may be potential reintroduction sites for that species down the road. Unfortunately, our water levels, all of our local reservoirs are low, and some of them are starting to approach conservation full status. So I think many that our boat ramps are starting to get to the point where we may be running out of concrete on those, and just very, very low. Many of them are, I think, 35% capacity or lower. So it's definitely this lack of moisture and this long dry spell is taking a toll on reservoirs. Krause Reservoir is an example. We liberalized that harvest up there this year to allow some harvest on those fish. It's very low. We don't expect that to overwinter fish at all. And in fact, we expect probably kills over the summer as well. On a positive note, the bass fishing at Steiner continues to be really good. We encourage harvest on some of the smaller bass. There's a lot of abundant population of them. So people have been having a lot of fun with that this year. Our wildlife biologists have spent quite a bit of time this year doing ptarmigan surveys up in the high Uintas. Been doing some new protocols that they use in Colorado and actually finding more ptarmigan in the Uintas than we probably realized in areas that we didn't know that they were using. So that's really exciting news. Finding good numbers and that they're doing well in the Uintas. We're having increasing bear encounters. Been dealing with bears the last 2 weeks. Just encourage the public to be mindful of keeping a clean campsite and keep your food and garbage secure. Those are usually the things that result in bears starting to get into a habit of causing trouble. So the other thing I'm going to mention is the division is not just launching some gear meetings, discussions around the state to interact with the public. Each region is going to have one or more of those meetings. We're planning 2 here in the Northeast region for later this month, but really I just want to encourage the public to come out and talk about things that might be limiting deer populations and find ways that we can work together to grow deer populations. You know, a good example is actually in this room with J.C. Brewer. He's identified lots of spring sources and different things in the book best that he knows of. We've been able to work with him. He's actually done some improvements himself and supplied him some materials and different things. So that's just a cool example of how we can work together with the public and sportsmen to do good things for deer. So we're interested in hearing people's ideas, and I think we'd like to form some groups to work together on issues moving forward. So this is kind of our flyer. The first meeting, as I mentioned, will be in Roosevelt Library on the 26th, and then we'll have a meeting at the UN Conference Center here in Burl on the 28th. So, you know anybody that would like to come out and let us hear what their thoughts are, ways we can bolster our populations, we're certainly going to be there and hopefully be able to interact with them. So, our law enforcement, I know they're really busy right now with a lot of the fire security shifts. As you know, there's major fires in the state right now with Monroe Fire, as well as the fires over on the LaSalle's, and taking a lot of time.
North Slope.
Yeah, today I think they'll be headed to the North Slope now. So, anyhow, that takes a lot of time with our officers helping with that security. But they've also been completing a number of backcountry patrols in the high Uintas, and as a result of a number of violations, people really don't expect to be checked up there. And last couple of years, we've had more patrols, and the people just aren't fishing without a license and different things like that. So it's always good to surprise people. Strawberry Reservoir remains busy. For those of you know, as law enforcement section, division, formed their own division. There was redistricting with responsibilities. And so this area does cover Strawberry Reservoir right now. So it's just really busy over there for them. As you might imagine, it's a very popular fishery, but a lot of violations with the cutthroat slaughter. And then the last thing is with the hunting season's coming up, our officers are going to be definitely busy doing that, and as well as working through fire issues as well. So our outreach had some cool things going on. We had over 190 participants come to the Red Canyon Lodge Hummingbird Matting event this year. People from all over the state and other states, and then there was even some international visitors that came this year. We actually had a big waiting list for people that wanted to attend the event as well as all we could really accommodate. But it's been a very, very popular. People really like to see these birds up close and watch them as biologists are advanced. And I think we get all 4 species up at Red Canyon you'd expect to see in this area. So that's pretty neat. At the Flame Gorge Dam Osprey Viewing Day, we had 127 people, and again, people from all over. I think a lot of times there's travelers that happen to come by and stop in. But definitely the hummingbird is really a destination event for people. And then the Fishing with the Fox contest, I think that closed this week. And I think the awards is tonight, but 284 out of 550 tags were returned. That's a pretty impressive tag return rate on catching fish. So there's some families that really make it a goal to get a bunch of these tags, but it's a very popular event, and tonight is the award prize drawings. Habitat folks really busy right now. Contracting some of our fall work. There's going to be a lot of work going on, including bull hog, lock and scatter, and herbicide treatments. I think the figures that Corey Mathis, our restoration biologist, gave to me today was about 16,000 acres of work scheduled this fall and into the winter. So that's a lot of work. There's a big lock and scatter project in that, but definitely a lot of good work happening. Guzzler construction and maintenance has been a ongoing priority this summer, and finished this large mega guzzler up on Blue Mountain. It's got several of our tanks that we have, and then one really large apron. So that's a cool project. We just need some rain now. So anybody can do anything to get some rain to help fill these things up, that'd be helpful. That's it for my update tonight. So thank you.
Okay, we will go to agenda item number 5. Oh, Dan, do you have a question?
Just a real quick comment. I could just kind of piggyback off of what Miles just shared with his agency update. The Forest Service will be going into fire restrictions tomorrow. Some of you may have heard that already, but starting tomorrow, the Ashley National Forest will be going into fire restrictions, and I just wanted to mention that. And what that means is it's a stage 1 restriction. And so there'll be no more like campfires in dispersed camping areas. If you want to have a campfire, you need to be in a developed campground with a, Forest Service approved concrete or metal ring. And so I just wanted to share that, kind of piggyback off of Miles's update there. So that's all.
Yeah, I guess I'll add to that. The BLM also is in fire restrictions, but we're stage 2, so no open burning.
Thank you.
Saw that. We'd also like to note that Ken Johnson with the Wildlife Board is also on attending the meeting as well. Thanks, Dan and Jordan, for those updates on those agency things. Those are very helpful for us. A lot of people don't really hear those things, and so I really appreciate it.
You bet.
Let's go ahead and go to agenda number 5, and we will with Lindy Barney. Does everybody have a chance to, hopefully everybody's had a chance to see your presentation. You want to give a little rundown?
Yeah, if that's what you would like.
Yeah, just give a little rundown on it.
Okay. So the first one that I'm presenting is some recommendations to our surrender and variance rule. They're two separate rules. So let's start with the surrenders. So sometimes there's some incidences where our draw results are posted less than 30 days before the hunt begins. That's mostly our spring bear hunts. Our hunters that are successful sometimes end up surrendering them, and our current rule does allow them to surrender it, and they do get their points reinstated, but -1 for the current year. However, it was an oversight that they do not qualify for the refund at this time. So we are proposing to align our refund rule so that they still qualify for the refund -25, just like someone that was to surrender, when there's more than 30 days before the hunt starts. And that only applies to those that are where the post date is less than 30 days before the hunt starts. Another recommendation that we are asking tonight is that if someone does surrender their permit for a medical reason, right now they have 90 days to submit that paperwork into us. And we are asking to change that 90 days to 30 days. We're running into some eligibility issues and procrastination. And so we would like to tighten that up so we can get that paperwork in and get those taken care of in a timely manner. And then another one that we're recommending is just to align our refund language for medical surrenders to align with our state code. That was missing from the rules. We just wanted to add it to it. And then moving on to the variance recommendations. Right now, you can submit a variance 120 days after your season ends. That's the application. So that's 5 months. 120 days doesn't sound much, but when you say 5 months, that's kind of extensive. And so what we're running into is a lot of eligibility issues for those that are submitting those up to that 119 days. And we're also running into some loophole incidences, and those ones we've turned those into law enforcement, and some of those have been abused by this program. So we're trying to clean it up and saying, you qualify for a variance, we want to help you out, but let's get it taken care of as soon as possible. And then we also want to add another qualification to the variance. So to add, if you have a court order subpoena that substantially precludes you from your hunt, we want to add that to one of the qualifying events. And then lastly, remove the COVID-19 related personal health issues from one of the qualifying events. That's kind of over with, but we still allow medical surrender. So if someone does get COVID, we still can take care of them.
Okay, do we have any questions from the RAC on this one?
Why did you have such a liberal 120-day span for variances to begin with?
That is a great question, and I am not sure that it's been in place before I started working for the division 20 years ago. So it's been that way for a long time. They probably just felt like it was, it's a great question. Probably they just felt like it was give people ample time to do it. But back then, we didn't have hunts that went clear into January. Now we do. And then our application opens March. So there's a lot of eligibility that occurs now that probably did, 20 plus years ago.
30 days seems reasonable until you try and make an appointment with your doctor. And you'll find that it's usually about 6 weeks out. So it might be a little more restrictive than, that may be why the 90 days has been there. And so I'm trying to decide if that's in the best interest.
Yeah. I'd see your point. We haven't come across that issue because usually most people that are surrendering for a medical reason have already seen their physician. They've already been to a doctor, and it's this is happening right now type of thing, and they are having surgery or they're being seen for the injury or the illness. But yeah,
If it's going to be done as an outpatient, that may make it difficult.
I was gonna ask a question about that. In my mind, I was like, why do you even need 30 days to know that you couldn't hunt, after? But that makes maybe a little more sense. Has there been a discussion about just making initial contact of, letting the DWR know that there is a medical condition?
and we usually work with them, even right now with the 120 days or the 90 days, we have the application in the permit. We work with our hunters, you know, because we do understand that there are exceptions where the physician doesn't get us the note, or, you know, comes from a registered nurse instead of the actual MD. So we're always willing to work with them as long as we are in contact. It's not like you submitted your application and then the 90-day comes up, we're gonna be done. But we also need to kind of push that up because we are running into a lot of eligibility issues and a lot of overriding procrastination is a huge thing too. And so we have a stack full of these that aren't getting finalized, and unfortunately they call us long after the time, and we just want to put that deadline out there so people can actually get it done.
Roughly how many of these exceptions are you making yearly?
Which ones are you talking about, for the variances or for the medicals? So the variances vary between each year, and usually it's about anywhere from 15 to 50 on the variances. Surrenders, it's about, I didn't have my thing pulled up. Pull it up real quick. It's 17% of our surrendered permits overall. So it's still a good chunk. Sorry, I didn't have that one sheet pulled up yet. So it's usually around 100 for medical. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. So, yeah. And that's just for big game. So.
Any other questions from the RAC? Okay, well, any questions from the public? And we'll move on to electronic comments then.
We didn't receive any electronic comments or any electronic feedback on this item.
We don't have any public comment cards either on this one, I don't see. So we'll go ahead to RAC discussion or motions.
I think everything seems reasonable. Like to make a motion to pass it as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to accept recommended changes to R 657-24 and R 657-57 surrender variances to accept as presented by Jake Huber. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Second by Nate. We'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor, go ahead and raise your hand. Go ahead and keep them up. I believe that is unanimous. So we will go ahead and move on to the next one, number 6, item number 6.
Okay.
Our recommended changes of R 657-41 and 62 sportsman draw and group applications.
Okay, so a brief overview of these ones. We'll start with the sportsman's rule, so the 41. So when you're one of the lucky applicants that draws out for one of these permits, our current rule does not allow you to purchase a point for a species that you're ineligible to apply for in the big game application. So for example, if you drew out for a bison permit in the sportsman's draw, our current rule says that you can't, obtain more than once lifetime permit per year. And so it restricts you from applying for that once lifetime permit that you've been applying for the last 25 years. What we're recommending is to allow those individuals that are successful in the sportsman's to just purchase a point, not apply for the actual hunt, but just purchase a point for that once lifetime species that they were ineligible to apply for because of that permit. This is to kind of align all of our exceptions that we have out there. Currently, we allow our conservation permit holders or our CWMUs or our Expo successful applicants to still purchase the point for the species that they were successful in obtaining those permits for. So we want to try to keep everyone treated equally and fairly as much as possible. Another thing that we are proposing that, and this applies to both of our statewide permits, so the conservation permit and the sportsman's permit, they reside in the same rule. But those permits on the statewide have a set start date within the rule. So it's usually September 1st, August 1st, and April 1st. And every 7 years, those dates are on a Sunday. And in the state of Utah, we cannot start a hunt on a Sunday. So we are proposing to just put these dates in rule, even though that's what we've been doing over the last decade. But we want to put these dates in rule that if September 1st falls on a Sunday, we would like to start that hunt on August 31st. If it's August 1st, we will start that on August 2nd. And then for the turkey hunt, that's April 1st, we will start on March 31st. The reason for the August 1st to go to August 2nd instead of July 31st is typically we do not like to start hunting in July. Our biologists have kind of steered away from that. We also have our trail cam rule that's, you have to take your trail cams down by July 31st. We kind of set everything by the August 1st date when hunts can start going. So that's why that one day is just different than the other ones. And then we just want to clarify in the sportsman's rule that you can only draw out for one species within that drawing. That's how it's working. That's how it's always worked. We just want to clarify it so then people understand that it is a rule that you only can draw out for one. No one's ever drawn out two, but we just wanted to clarify that it's not like the expo type thing. And then moving on to the Rule 62, we want to recommend to allow group applications for our management buck deer hunts. So when these hunts were put in place a decade or so ago, we were offering a low number of permits, and we were also doing youth allocation and senior allocations at that time. And we felt like there wasn't enough permits to start offering for group applications, because if someone applies a group and we didn't have enough permits, they would be skipped over, and we didn't want that to happen. So we just said no group apps. But now this day and age, we feel like we are offering enough permits to allow people to apply in groups. So we would like to recommend removing that exception from our management buck deer hunts.
Okay, is there any questions from the RAC? Any questions from the public? Okay, we'll move on to electronic comments then.
Yeah, again, we received no feedback or any electronic comments on this item.
Okay, we have no public comment cards on this, so we'll go ahead and move to RAC discussions or motions. I didn't know people could actually draw the sportsman's tags. No, I'm just joking. Two, one, it'd be nice just to have one.
If you win one, you might as well also win a point too.
Yeah.
So let's go big.
I never was in that problem, so I never had to worry about it. I know they brought up a question in the southern region about retroactively doing it, and they brought that up, and have there been any discussion with that, like awarding points back to people who've had that problem? Or
Yeah, we've talked about it, but like, where's the perfect cutoff date for that? And that, someone, if you don't go back from the very start date of when those applied, like, how do you not offer to all of them for the last 35 years without someone getting offended or feel like they got jaded? And then if we do that, retroactivate like all 35 years worth of applicants, over 300 people, that would have, we would affect. And then you'd say, okay, so people have now started applying for different species because of this rule, and it just would be a domino effect. So that's why we just said, moving forward, let's start fresh with this new rule. Usually that's why we do new rules. We don't go back in time to help those individuals out, because it could create a lot of havoc. And yeah, where's the perfect cutoff date? It would be really hard to determine that.
I do think this is a good change, because you get, like you said in your presentation, one less moose point, and that could take 5 to 10 years off or add 5 to 10 years onto your application.
Yeah.
Before you get in that max points pool.
Yeah, we felt like it's a good change to try to keep everyone equal as much as possible, especially because it is harder and harder to draw.
I see the point of giving them the opportunity, but at the same time, it's like, you got a once in a lifetime tag and a sportsman's tag. What else do you want? Everything, yes.
Have any more discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass as presented.
Have a motion by Jake Huber to accept the recommended changes to R 657-41 and R 657-2 Sportsman Draw Group applications. Do I have a second? Eric Major seconded that. We'll go ahead and take a vote on it. Everybody just go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. It passed. Okay, we'll move on to item number 7. Our changes to R 657-73 tagging requirements.
Okay, this is the main reason why we have this RAC tour, is for this rule in particular. So just to clarify, so this is a new rule that we're recommending, where we created it. So what we did is consolidate all of our tagging regulations from all of our different species into one rule, and then added language to allow electronic tagging, or e-tagging is what people call it as well. So just wanted to point out that this rule still allows people to either physically tag your animal or electronically tag your animal. It's not saying that we are going strictly e-tagging. People still have the option of what they want to do. They can still choose between either or, not both, but either or of them. So within this new rule, if you decide to physically tag a carcass, you still must completely detach the tag from the permit, completely remove the appropriated notches to correspond with the date that you harvested the animal, and still attach the physical tag to the carcass so that it is securely and visible. That still is, that did not change from our rule that's currently out there right now. And the one thing that has changed is that we're no longer requiring you to keep the tag with the largest portion of the animal until the animal is entirely consumed. With working with law enforcement on this rule, they felt like that was no longer needed, necessary, so we felt like striking it from a requirement nowadays. And then also within this rule, we are adding language to allow hunters to electronically tag a carcass. And under this rule, you must electronically notch the digital permit, which you have to have our app, the Utah Hunt and Fish app, to do so on your phone. And that will correlate the date that the animal is taken. And you also must provide the information that's been asked when you're e-tagging. So for example, it's asking you for your location, photos, and then it'll ask you all of your harvest survey questions. So like, how many days did you hunt? Did you wound any animals? What's the size of the antlers? How many points? All those basic questions that we ask now will be asked in the app, and that is required to provide that information. And then to keep the electronic harvest code in your possession. We're not requiring you to tag it onto the animal, but we're saying it needs to be in your possession when you're removing the animal. So you can either take a screenshot of that code, or you can write it down and put it in your pocket. Or when you go into the app, they're actually, once you complete the harvest, like the harvest portion of it, the e-tagging, there's a little section on there now that will say it's been completed, and the number will be visible on your app, so you can pull it up there. Within this rule, when you're hunting, you still may not remove more than one notch indicating the date of the harvest. Tag more than one carcass using the same physical tag or the electronic permit. Hunt or pursue the species after shooting and retrieving the animal that you are hunting, detaching the tag from the permit, and notching the tag either physically or electronically. So.
Okay, we'll take questions from the RAC on this.
Does this take your GPS location where you,
It
when
does.
you do that?
Yep. So you have to enable the location on your phone. And that's where it'll pull from.
Didn't you say that you were going to be able to keep this data? 'Cause I know people have problems with telling where they harvested the animal, but you were I can see one rack where you said that this data, you're gonna be able to keep it private,
Yes,
that just the biologist would be able to see.
yeah, it has been deemed as confidential or so under the Grandma Act, you cannot request it because the word just totally slipped my mind. It is private information. So no one can use it except for those that need it for their job, which would be our biologists to use it when they're looking at data to make recommendations or other things, but that's the only thing it can be used for.
Will this apply to all tag species, whether it's mammals or birds or anything else?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that where you can do it for all animals. You know, if it doesn't require a tag, so like your waterfowl, but sooner or later we'll get to the swans, the grouse, the cranes. Yes.
Can you talk to the requirements about the photos?
Yeah, so right now it's requiring 3 photos. We're asking for one side, the other side, and then the front. So it has changed since my presentation. At the time, it did say 4. But then through this whole process, our biologists felt like that was an overkill. So they put it to 3. So. And in the app, it will tell you what's required, like what kind of photo is required in the app. It says you need to do the right side, the left side, and the front.
Currently, there's not anything specific about taking proof of sex photo besides just what you might be able to see from both.
Yep, and that's in the transportation portion of the rule, and so that part, it has not changed.
Is there any discussion about having this fulfill your harvest survey request?
This is, yeah, it will fulfill that mandatory harvest reporting. So if you e-tag, that is done right then and there. And so then you don't have to go home and fill it out on the computer. It's the exact same questions. And we did that on purpose to make this whole process simpler for our hunters.
So let's say you're out of service and you hit, fill out the app, and that, will it automatically upload when you get to service? Is that how it'll work? Or-
So yeah, so if you're out of service, you can still fill out the whole questions, add all of the information, and the electronic code will still appear once you've submitted the information. It will then reside on your phone. And then once you get into service, you do have to log back onto the phone, onto the app, and then that's when it will download into our database.
So the hunter would have to
Yep.
physically log back in.
Yep. But since you brought up the question, like, is this your harvest survey? Yeah, if you don't do that, then your harvest survey is not filled out. And you'll get the reminder saying you need to fill out your harvest survey. And then if you still don't do it, you'll get the late fee, even though you're there. So it is a requirement, and you would be breaking the rules.
I think I know the answer, but
Mhm.
You can have, say, your tag and your son or your daughter's tag on
Yes.
the same app, right?
Yep, you can download your families, but they just make sure that they have to be the ones filling it out. They're the ones there, just like as if it was their tag.
Okay.
So, but yeah, you can have all your kids on your phone, one device, but they still have to be the ones harvesting and filling it out.
This is gonna be ready to go for this archery season?
Not for this archery, no.
Okay.
Just because, well, the board meeting isn't until the 21st of August. Season starts on the 16th. And then we still have that limbo between when the board happens to when the rules get filed. And then we have to do the version, like upload the new version, push it out to everyone. So it's going to be September, hoping later this fall, we'll have it out to everyone.
But you are expected this year.
If everything goes through and it gets passed by the wildlife board, yeah, we're hoping later this fall we can implement it.
Is that the reason why my tag says this is not valid
Yep.
for use while hunting?
Yep.
Okay.
And that will change once everything gets approved. A new version will be rolled out, and then it will allow you to click on it to e-tag. So
So I know locations have been kind of a hot topic. Can you explain like what's gonna happen once you e-tag? Like, is that gonna go directly to an officer? Is you gonna evaluate it right then? Does it go to a biologist? Like, how do you get that information and what are you doing? When are they evaluating that information and what's happening from there?
yeah, so depending, if you have service, it will automatically go straight into our database once you submit. If you're on the mountain and you fill everything out, it will go straight into there. Our law enforcement, if you get checked in the field, they'll have their own ways to look at your information through an app that they'll have. And they can verify that information as well. And then our biologists will have that in their database that they can pull up and use it. And the reason why they want that location is for the mere fact that they can start analyzing where the herds are, where people are hunting, where, right now is not a requirement in the harvest survey. You can put wherever you want, whatever drainage. They just want better data. Everyone at the RAC meetings or in the board meetings or just general public say, we want better data. And this is another way for us to get better data. And so we're asking the public for some help so we can retrieve that.
So it'd be-
Biologists are tired of looking for no-till and bridge, is that what you're saying?
None of your business, Rich. Yeah,
So it'd be the biologist that'd be evaluating that, not necessarily law enforcement.
they will have access to that.
Access to it.
Yes, yes. Law enforcement will have access to all this. So if you get checked in the field or if you go to a check station, when you're coming down the mountain, they'll be able to look at all of that. Yeah.
Just thinking about a scenario, trying to think what would change. I think legally, if you were to harvest an animal on the last night, last hour, whatever, and then you back out and retrieve it the following day, the timestamp on the E-tag would show you like out of season, right? I think legally you can retrieve an animal you've harvested the day before, right?
You just got to work through it and trying to think how that would work out too. We'd have to, I'm pretty sure, working with law enforcement like we always do, especially, when you do harvest and go retrieve it the next day. Most people do contact law enforcement to let them know that they're retrieving. Sometimes law enforcement helps them just so then people don't call on them as poaching and stuff. So
I know there's been some concerns like with, possibly using your paper tag and go back out on your E-tag. Is there any way from law enforcement side when they check a paper tag or something that they enter that so that they're kind of following up, like if somebody's filled their tag once, if you're checking somebody, you're putting that in the database. So if they get checked by a different officer and they're using their E-tag, is there a way to track that, or how does that work?
yeah, so through all these conversations, our IT department's working through all these little scenarios, trying to make it tighter. So they're working through all this
Is
stuff.
there talk of doing only one or the other during the application process?
Yep.
You pick one or the other?
Yeah, we first want to roll out the first, version 1.0. And then as things progress, we want this to evolve where you get to the point where you select what you're going to do. So then you don't have that possibility of having the physical and electronic on you.
Will the officers have live, can they just look up, say, okay, who's filled their E-tag out? They don't have to check you and verify your code. They can just.
I don't know that,
Shows.
yeah, I don't know all the details of their side of the app that's been developed, but I would probably be certain, if it was able to download into the database, they have access to the database. So they'll be able to see who's, uploaded.
Who's uploaded
Mhm.
an E-tag.
I think it's a good idea. I really do. We've got to keep up with the times. But there, like he says, it was shot on the mountain. There's so many old timers that never tell you where they shot anything, so they'll still stay to the paperwork. But I think for the biologists and stuff, it's a good idea. Really, really good idea. We're not in ancient times anymore.
We try not to be.
Yeah.
Any more questions from the RAC?
Is there any talk about making this permanent, where it just goes to E-tag? That we're still
No.
looking.
We've had that discussion, just in conversations, if we ever want to evolve to that. But right now, the answer is no. We don't see that in the future, just for the mere fact there are people out there that don't have, nor will they, want to take their phones off the mountain. Even though they have a smartphone, they still want the physical tag. So, right now, there's no talk of actually just mandating straight e-tagging. I think that would be a hard sell for people. Not everyone wants to have a smartphone. I know people that still have the flip phones and they're still young.
Any other rack questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and take any questions from the public. Nope. All right, electronic comments.
Yeah, the public's been pretty silent on this stuff. No comments, electronically.
Okay, we will move on to rack discussions or motions. I just want to say, I like the e-tagging idea. Nothing worse than when your kid can't find their tag and they're scrambling. Or if you're the one that's up on the mountain and your dad asks you, where's your tag? And you go, oh, I don't know. And you have to put the gun in the gun rack and take the bullets out and go home. So I think it's a good thing. So.
But it is concerning that you would hope that the biologist will have the level of discreetness that there needs to be some sort of accountability there. That's the biggest concern being.
I think it was a Southeastern meeting last night, right? That gentleman had I thought a good idea about potentially making a specific requirement to take a picture of the proof of sex so that could be documented too, and you don't have to take that with you. I know that would mean changing the travel rule, right? But I would definitely support something like that. I think that's a good idea. If we're already taking pictures, just make sure one has that evidence. And avoid some other tickets potentially.
That's the only thing I can see is the data getting out into the hands of the public somehow. They can, break into the system or something. You always have that possibility. And that's the only drawback I can see is somebody misusing this information. But we have that every day.
Instead of an exact data point, could you have like a 10-mile radius or something? I mean, I know that may not meet with the map itself because of the boundaries. But there's no difference between that and a physical tag as well. And so that would put my mind to rest a lot more. If this were the data point were within 10 miles or so.
Yeah, no, that has been discussion that would be a whole rewrite of the whole program and probably put us back a full year. We have policies in place with the division. When it comes to this kind of stuff, we do it for, bears, where it's required of your GPS location. That data is private as well. Our biologists haven't abused that. We have the initiative migration and the collaring. Our biologists have policies, internal policies where that can't be used unless it's the same exact information, where we do, we all love working for the Division of Wildlife and we don't want to lose our jobs for, using data that we're not supposed to. And we do have policies in place for that kind of stuff.
So there is precedent. Okay.
Yeah, because, like I said, for bear and cougar, it's required to give us GPS location. And so we store that now. And it's not abused by our biologists at all, or law enforcement, or people that have access to it. And same with, our collar data on our animals. That's not abused either. We have strict policies on that information.
Sure, that's helpful.
So-
Thanks.
But those are not taken off of GPS on a phone, correct? I give you the GPS location
They still, yeah,
online and there.
yeah, when they come check it in, they have to give us a GPS
Give you,
location.
it's not off the picture. It's
No.
not based off location.
No,
So
not yet.
that's my biggest holdup as
Yeah,
well. It's just the GPS location off my, I have no problem sending pictures or
Yeah.
telling you what drainage, but.
Having been at the Strawberry Check Station, for instance, somebody comes through and says, yeah, I shot Willow Creek. There's like 3 Willow Creeks in that valley you can choose from, right? And there's some of them are different subunits. And so I think this really just says, yeah, this is actually going to be in 17B rather than 17A. I don't know that anybody's really going to be pulling up exact locations.
It has a buffer zone, like
Yeah.
when you use locations in all your phones, it still has like a little bit of a buffer, like by several yards and stuff. Because like right now, if you pull up my GPS location on my phone, because I have it, my home is my neighbor's home. don't ask me, like if I, pull to say, drive me home, it's my neighbor's house. So, it doesn't get like pinpoint exact, but it does have buffers, and that's how all locations work on phones. It has a little bit of a buffers zone on it, but it's not 5 miles. It's several yards.
I think the easiest fix is if you don't like it, just go with paper.
Sure.
I mean, it's just as easy that way, I mean, you're not saying we have to have electronic and you don't have plans to go to that permanently. So to me, that solves the problem. So.
Kind of sparks a question, like, so when you are on the paper option and you do say, there's really not any quality control requirements on what, you probably could type in, I've never thought of that, but like the no Helen Ridge or anything. There's not necessarily a drop down, like here's the canyons in your unit. So in some ways there is a little bit of inaccuracy. Does
Yeah.
that get how does that get mapped? Like when it is Willow Creek? Is someone going in and just trying to drop a point?
And it's really frustrating to them.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of our units do have a little bit drop downs, like our spike, which unit did you, hunt in? But, like it was mentioned, there's 3 Willow Creeks. How do you know which one it is when they do put that in? So you just kind of are guesstimating. And so this will give our biologists a lot more accurate information of what's going on in the field. So then they can be more hands-on, more active, and have better recommendations when they come through the public process.
Yeah, I think the benefits really outweigh the risks. I mean, most of us in here probably are hunters. If you're out and you're hunting and there's going to be evidence of a kill, you might see, skulls, bones, whatever. You can't hide the location anyway, right? So if someone comes across it, I've personally seen, oh, this was a hunter kill. Maybe this is a good spot to hunt, right? So, you can't ever fully conceal where you're going to be. And I see a lot of benefit with, the precision of the data for the biologists and how they can sort of integrate that with the collar data and everything else. So.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept. This sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay, Dwayne Davies makes a recommendation to the changes of the R657-73, the tagging requirements. Do I have a second?
Second.
And then Jordan seconded it. We'll go ahead and take a vote. Everybody raise your hand in favor. Looks like that passed unanimously. Okay. Just want to remind everyone, the next RAC meeting will be on September 4th. And it will be held here in this meeting. It will be fishing regulations, I believe is what it is. Also on August 21st is the next board meeting at 9 a.m. at the Eccles Wildlife Education Center. And also don't forget about the Mule Deer meetings, the one in Roosevelt and the one here as well too in Vernal. I think they're on the 26th and the 28th is what they were. So unless we have anybody that wants to be a RAC chair, that's the only other thing we have left to discuss. So
I did send out the email to folks to see if anybody had any nominations, and 3 people were nominated. One being Mark Chenoweth, Eric Major, and Natasha Haddon. Wasn't able to talk to Natasha, however, she nominated someone else to be a RAC chair. So I think we had everybody nominating everyone else. Did speak with Mark, and he didn't feel like it was something he was ready to do. I think Eric mentioned that he has a lot of irons in the fire as well. So I'm not sure the nomination process ended up getting us to a final solution here. Both Eric and Grizz, I think we expressed interest or willingness to continue or to be vice chair. So just in case there's any questions, the role of the chair is certainly to run the meeting. And then often, the other part is to represent this RAC at the wildlife board meeting. As far as representing the RAC at the board meeting, there's a couple of ways that can be done. I mean, in person is probably preferable, but some board meetings not unheard of for people to do that electronically. And if the chair or the vice chair cannot attend, regional supervisors that actually build in for the RAC chairs as well. But it's important to have the RAC represent itself at the board meeting rather than a division employee, but that can be done as well. So that's kind of the main responsibilities of the RAC chair. The RAC chair doesn't typically vote unless it's a tie break, but other than that, they can participate and comment as other RAC members. So really, it's kind of up to the RAC to decide who's going to be your representative. So I would kind of leave it up to the RAC to maybe talk about that and work through how you may want to proceed.
I can definitely represent for the 21st on that board meeting. If we want to table this until the next meeting, somebody wants to think about it, think it over. I'm fine with being the chair for the next meeting as well too on the 4th. So.
Is there anybody else here that wants or would be willing to or would like to be the RAC chair?
I've just been in it for 2 years and I just figured it was time for a change. That's all. It's not like it's that pressing or anything, but I just figured it was time for a change.
I think I mentioned to you, I was like, if I could be the I think I just started my I finished my 4th year, going on 4 more years. I said, I'll volunteer for the last 2 years for sure, but I think I'd also be willing to as well, but I don't know. Anyone else, any thoughts on that? I know some of you guys are probably not wanting to jump in that hot seat just yet, but.
So typically, RAC chair is eligible for a 2-year term before they have to be voted in. Chris has just finished his 1st term. You are eligible for a second 2-year term. So you can only be a RAC chair for 4 years out of your potential 8. With that being said, I don't think there's a reason why you couldn't, have a new RAC chair after even a year or something like that. So if somebody would be willing to do it for a year, that might be an option as well.
How many wildlife board meetings are there?
6.
And you do get reimbursed mileage wise when you go, if you need to go out there, you can get reimbursed for some other like hotel expenses as well too.
Can we elect Natasha if she's not here?
I can do it for another year unless somebody decides we want to. I mean, that's fine. Everybody's silence kind of tells like it is. So, I mean, there's going to reach a point where I can't do it anymore. So I can do it for another year.
I know one reason, I think one reason you'd like to be in the board, so you have a little more
It'd be nice to have a
option to
vote once in a while.
vote. So.
If Grizz is willing and you guys are interested in having Grizz, we probably just need to do a vote on that, and then we would need to, have a discussion as the vice chair as well.
What if we talk vice chair? Is there anyone here that would be willing to do that? So that's yours and I.
My schedule just doesn't always line up. We work days and nights, 7 on, 7 off, rotated, so it'd be hard for me to commit to something. I wouldn't volunteer, but
I'd probably be willing as a RAC chair or things like that, where it'd be more, or the vice chair would be willing to help out wherever. So if that's one of your holdups in that, we can definitely help that make that out, or make it between the two of us,
yeah.
So do we need to do a vote on it then, I guess? Kind of got our answer.
Yeah, I guess I would suggest the RAC makes a motion on the chair and then there, we can, if we need to do a vote on the vice chair.
Okay. Do you need to do the motion on that one?
I would say somebody from the RAC could move, make a motion.
No, but I mean run the motion or do it because since it's big.
All right, I'll make a motion to nominate Grizz for the chair.
Okay, we have a motion to nominate me for the chair. Guess everybody.
Are you okay with that, Grizz?
I'm okay with it. I just.
I think
It's
I'd
time
do
for a
it.
change.
I would do it if you'd like me to. I think I could swing it, especially if you could back me up.
I'm more than happy to. You're volunteering.
I was just feeling bad for you.
It's not like it's the end of the world. I just figured it's time for. It's been 2 years, that's all. So.
I mean, let me retract my motion and I'll make a motion for Eric to be the chair.
Just don't tell my wife. She doesn't know we're on YouTube.
Okay, we have a motion for Eric to be the rec chair. All those in favor?
But there, I would say.
Oh, yeah, better have a second.
I'll second.
Dwayne seconded. Okay. A second, Dwayne. All those in favor? There's a hand.
Raise your hand.
I get a vote. Okay. Unanimous, Eric. And so that takes us on to vice chair. Do we have a motion for the vice chair?
So you can do it two ways. If you got more than one person want to do it, we can do a vote. Or if there's, you just want to talk through it and decide if there's somebody that wants to do it, but more than someone else. But if there are people interested, the first way would be to do it.
I'm fine if Nate wants to try it. I don't necessarily have to be. If you'd like to try it and get a little experience, you can do it. So. I don't know if there's a vice chair. Assistant to the assistant regional manager. So. Do we have a motion for, I guess, well, let's take a motion. Do we want to, for vice chair?
I'll make a motion. Thanks, the vice chair.
Okay, we have a motion by Dwayne for Nate Crapo as the vice chair. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jordan. All those in favor, go ahead and raise a hand. Unanimous, so Eric is the, that passes. Eric is the chair and Nate is the vice chair. So I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn unless we have anything else we talk about.
Motion to adjourn.
Jordan, motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Adam second. Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.